Hi there, it's Sam from Verse.com, again with another comparison video. In this one we will take a closer look at the Oppo Find X3 Pro and Huawei's Mate 40 Pro. We are comparing them in terms of display, performance, camera, design and battery. So watch until the end of this video and find out which is in our opinion the better phone. If you'd like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's start straight away with our review. Let the facts speak. Display. The Oppo Find X3 Pro has a 6.7-inch display, which measures 17.02 cm diagonally and has a resolution of 1440p. Its AMOLED screen creates very natural colors and has a pixel density of 525 ppi. It features a refresh rate of 120 Hz and a peak brightness of 1300 nits. Looks like a high quality display with really good stats. Let's see what Huawei has got to offer. The Mate 40 Pro has a 6.76-inch display with a 1344p resolution. It also uses an OLED screen which creates very accurate colors. The 6.76-inch display therefore measures 17.17 cm diagonally with a pixel density of 456 ppi. The Huawei has a 90 Hz refresh rate. So the display of the Mate 40 is a bit bigger, which is good, but as we all know, size isn't everything. The Find X3 Pro has better arguments when it comes to pixel density, resolution and even refresh rate. Here the Mate 40 Pro is lacking the crucial 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate, which the Oppo has. Therefore this category knows only one clear winner, the Find X3 Pro. Camera. The Mate 40 Pro uses a 3-rear camera system, an ultra-wide with 20 megapixel, a wide with 50 megapixel and a telephoto camera with 12 megapixel. You can find the ultra-wide 30 megapixel front camera in the upper left corner of the screen and a pillbox cutout right next to the 3D depth vision camera. It records 4K videos at a maximum of 60 frames. It also has image stabilization for video. A dual front camera including a time-of-flight 3D sensor. That is something that you don't really see that often. Let's have a look at the camera system of the Find X3 Pro. The Oppo Find X3 Pro has a quad rear camera system. It features a 50 megapixel wide angle, a 50 megapixel ultra wide angle, a 13 megapixel telephoto and a 3 megapixel micro lens camera. Its front camera has a resolution of 32 megapixel. The X3 Pro records 4K videos at a maximum of 60 frames per second. And of course it has optical image stabilization. Both phones have good camera systems, but which one is actually the better system? Let's take it to our camera test and let's find out which one does a better job. To evaluate how good the camera setups really are, we typically start by comparing their performance in daylight conditions. At first the pictures seem almost identical, but when we crop in you'll see the Oppo is notably softer, resulting in smoother edges. On the other hand, it is displaying a lot more grain and the Huawei has advantages in terms of color rendering. But while both show equal good amounts of detail, the Find X3 Pro is significantly sharper. This is especially notable in the last picture. Now let's switch to the nighttime conditions. Here the Huawei is way brighter, which is already an advantage. But it's not just that. The Mate 40 Pro outperformed the Oppo here by a mile, showing a good amount of detail and saturation. The Find X3 Pro on the other hand, well, let's say there's room for improvement. Both have equally good front cameras that show great results, but the higher saturation and better color rendering really pay off for Huawei, giving it the upper hand. The Find X3 Pro has a 5-fold hybrid optical and a 20-fold digital zoom feature. The Mate 40 Pro on the other hand has a 5x optical and a 50x digital zoom. Okay, so far so good. Now let's switch from photo feature to the video feature to find out which of these two phones takes better videos. What you can see and hear is the quality of the Huawei Mate 40 Pro video recording. We set it to the highest possible quality. Let's see what the competitor sounds and looks like. What you can see and hear is the quality of Oppo Find X3 Pro's video recording. We set it to the highest possible quality. Let's see what the competitor sounds and looks like. The sound quality from the Oppo is definitely better compared to the Mate 40, which is too echoing. In terms of the video quality though, they both do an excellent job. And the only notable difference is the higher saturation on Huawei's side. But in contrast to the selfie, we would not count it as an advantage here, since we think it creates a bit of an unnatural face color. But that is of course opinion based. Now let's crop in a bit in post to see how that looks like. As you can see, both again do really well. Although the Oppo has a bit more grain and we like the softer approach of the Mate 40 Pro a bit more as it creates a more natural look. Even 10 times zoomed in, both do quite well. But here the grain effect on Oppo's side is even more noticeable. When it comes to slow motion videos, the Find X3 Pro is capable of shooting 240 frames per second in Full HD and 480 frames per second in 720p mode. Whereas the Mate 40 Pro is capable of 480 frames per second in Full HD and up to 3840 frames per second in 720p. So, since both displayed a really good performance overall, let's break it down once again. Photography-wise, the Find X3 Pro did slightly better in daytime conditions, while the Mate 40 Pro had the advantage in terms of nighttime photos and the front camera. Regarding video performance, we have to say that both deserve props for probably doing the best compared to all the other phones we ever had the chance to do a video on. And while the Oppo has the advantage in terms of the sound quality, the Huawei is doing slightly better video quality wise. So overall the Mate 40 Pro slightly has the advantage, which is why in the end it got the point. Performance. The Huawei Mate 40 Pro has 256GB internal storage capacity. It is equipped with its in-house produced high-silicon Kirin 9000 chip and has 8GB RAM. The storage capacity can be expanded with another 256GB. There's also a 128GB and a 512GB version available, but that depends on the country you are in. Huawei's newest in-house chip and 8GB. Pretty decent. But will it be enough to beat the Oppo? The X3 Pro is equipped with Qualcomm's latest chip, the Snapdragon 888. The phone has 12GB RAM and a storage capacity of 256GB. The storage capacity unfortunately cannot be expanded. So, the newest Snapdragon versus Huawei's latest in-house chipset. Who's going to come out on top? Let's take them into the Antutu benchmark and the Geekbench 5 test and find out. The tests are divided into 3 phases. A performance test of the RAM, a test of how the device is handling 2-dimensional graphics, and an endurance test of how the device is handling 3D graphics. The second test is from Geekbench. This app will measure the performance of our smartphones in terms of CPU and GPU. Okay, wow. As you saw, the results of the Geekbench test were actually pretty even. If you consider the fact that the Mate 40 got released almost 5 months earlier than the Find X3 Pro. These are very good results for the Huawei. The results of the Antutu benchmark test, on the other hand, shows a pretty large gap between the two, which is why the Oppo in the end takes home this point. Design. The Oppo Find X3 Pro has an aluminum frame and a glass finish on the back. This version has a shining metallic finish, but there's also a matte blue one available. It features a very futuristic design with a triangular lens camera bump in the upper left corner on the back of the phone. The smartphone weighs 193 grams. It features a USB-C connector and is IP68 rated. That means that it is water and dust resistant. The phone also uses face recognition technology and a fingerprint sensor to unlock the phone. Both technologies work great. As a special feature for sound enthusiasts, the X3 Pro's alarms and ringtones are custom designed by famous producer Hans Zimmer. Very interesting design, you have to admit. Now let's have a look at the Mate 40 Pro. The Huawei Mate 40 Pro has a clean design with a matte finish. The 3-camera system is well positioned in a ring on the upper center on the back of the phone. Like most phones, the camera bump is pretty big, but since it is more centered, it tends to wobble less when it lays on a flat surface. The smartphone weighs 212 grams, it is roughly 16.29 cm long, 7.55 cm wide and 0.91 cm deep. It has a USB-C connector and thanks to an IP68 rating, it is water and dust resistant. The Mate 40 Pro uses a fingerprint scanner which is built into the screen and face recognition technology to unlock the phone. Both technologies work great. Believe it or not, these two phones actually share the same design approach. You're probably asking yourself now, what is this guy talking about? Well, Oppo advertised the Find X3 Pro streamlined curves are inspired by spacecraft. And the Mate 40 Pro has a space wing camera system. Well, just kidding. The design of these two phones are obviously very different. While the Find X3 Pro's gradient arc camera is designed to blend in with the rest of the backside to give the impression of a uniform piece, Huawei's camera is designed to be an eye-catcher. And it really is. Combined with the rainbow shine metal look, it is our clear favorite in this comparison. The mirror-like finish of the Oppo certainly matches the design approach, but it is not really our taste. The only downside of the Huawei design is the big front camera notch, which is necessary due to the fact that the phone has a dual front camera setup, but it really doesn't favor its appearance. All things considered, the Mate 40 Pro is in our opinion the better looking phone, and therefore gets the point here. Battery. The Oppo Find X3 Pro when fully charged has 4500 mAh and the Mate 40 Pro when fully charged has 4400 mAh. Both phones support fast and reverse wireless charging. Since the batteries are almost equal in size, the results should be very close. Let's bring them into our day-to-day usage test and see if that's true. So in our test, the Mate 40 Pro was actually able to last a lot longer than the Oppo. This is very surprising considering that the Find X3 Pro even has the slightly larger battery. Always keep in mind though that it all comes down to the way you use your phone and the settings you use it in. In our test environment, the Huawei was stronger and therefore gets this point. Conclusion. Alright, let's once again go through all the categories to collect the points and find out which phone will come out on top. We started off by comparing the displays on both phones, where the Oppo clearly had the advantage and got the point. In the second category, it was again the Find X3 Pro which had the upper hand performance-wise, although the Mate 40 Pro put up a pretty good fight. In terms of the camera system, things got pretty even, but in the end the Huawei had slightly better arguments and took the point home. Concerning the design, this time beauty won over innovation. Another point for the Mate 40 Pro. And in our final category, it all came down to endurance. Here it was once again the Huawei who was able to score the point, as its battery life is just exceptional. Summing it all up, we have 2 points for the Oppo and 3 points for the Huawei. So the deserved winner of this comparison video is the Huawei Mate 40 Pro. Naturally, we review more than these 5 categories covered here. If you want to see the full comparison, follow the link to our website. You can compare up to 7 different smartphones at versus.com. But before you do that, please post your comments and let us know which phone you think ranks first. If you liked our video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Till then, take care and see you soon.